Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, watching the stars through the main view screen. The ship moved slowly through the Kepler void, a region of space that most aliens considered worthless. No valuable minerals, no habitable planets, just empty space between distant stars. That was exactly why the humans were here. The Defiance was not a warship, at least not according to its official records. It was listed as an exploration vessel, designed to map unknown regions and study cosmic phenomena. Captain Chen knew better. She had read the classified files. The ship carried 200 crew members, all carefully selected for this mission. They were scientists, engineers, and support staff. They were also all former military personnel. "Captain," called Lieutenant Martinez from the sensor station. "I'm picking up something strange on long-range sensors. Multiple contacts approaching our position." Chen walked over to look at the display. 47 distinct signatures were moving toward them at high speed. The computer was already analyzing their energy patterns and hull configurations. These were not human ships. "Time to intercept?" Chen asked. 18 minutes at current speed," Martinez replied. "Captain, these aren't like anything in our database. The energy signatures are massive. Each ship appears to be at least twice the size of the Defiance." Chen felt her stomach tighten, but her face remained calm. She had been expecting this day for months. Earth's rapid expansion into space had not gone unnoticed. Intelligence reports suggested that several alien civilizations were watching humanity with growing concern. It seemed that concern had finally turned into action. "Sound General." "Quarters," Chen ordered. "All hands to battle stations. Have Dr. Vasquez report to the bridge immediately." The ship's alarm began to sound, a low, steady tone that echoed through every corridor. Across the Defiance, crew members moved to their assigned positions with practiced efficiency. To any observer, it would look like a standard emergency drill. The truth was more complex. Dr. Elena Vasquez arrived on the bridge within minutes. She was the ship's chief scientist, a brilliant woman who had spent years studying alien technology, recovered from crashed ships and abandoned outposts. She was also the person who would analyze whatever they were about to encounter. "Doctor," Chen said quietly, "we have incoming alien vessels. I need you to record everything. Every scan, every communication, every detail about their technology. This might be the most important data humanity ever collects." Vasquez nodded and moved to her station. Her fingers flew over the controls as she began preparing the ship's most sensitive instruments. The Defiance carried scanning equipment that was far more advanced than its external appearance suggested. "Captain," Martinez called out, "the contacts are dropping out of hyperspace. They're forming a sphere around our position. We're completely surrounded." The main view screen changed to show the approaching fleet. The ships were unlike anything the humans had ever seen. They had smooth, organic curves that seemed to flow like water frozen in space. Each vessel was massive, bristling, with weapon arrays and shield generators. The largest ship, clearly the flagship, was 3 times the size of the Defiance. "Incoming transmission," reported Communications Officer Park. "They're using standard galactic frequencies, audio and visual." "Put it through," Chen ordered. Tapriu. View screen flickered and changed to show an alien face. The creature had 6 eyes arranged in a triangular pattern, skin that looked like polished metal, and a mouth filled with sharp teeth. When it spoke, the universal translator converted its words into English. "Human vessel, this is Admiral Zexthul of the hegemony of Kethvar. You will power down your engines and weapons immediately. You will prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will result in the destruction of your ship." Chen stepped forward, keeping her hands visible and her posture non-threatening. "Admiral Zexthul, I am Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earthship Defiance. We are on a peaceful scientific mission. We have no hostile intentions toward your people or any other species." The alien's 6 eyes focused on her with obvious disdain. Your intentions are irrelevant, human. Your species has been expanding too rapidly. You have been developing technology too quickly. The hegemony has decided that humanity requires guidance. You will submit to our protection. Chen felt a chill run down her spine. Protection. She had heard that word before in classified briefings. It was the same word the Kethvar had used when they conquered the peaceful Zalani system. The Zalani had been protected right into extinction. Admiral, I would like to discuss the terms of this protection, Chen said carefully. Perhaps we could arrange a meeting between our peoples. I'm sure we can reach an understanding that benefits everyone. There will be no negotiation. Zexthul replied sharply. You will comply or you will be destroyed. You have 1 hour to prepare for boarding. Any attempt to flee or communicate with your homeworld will be considered an act of war. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in tense silence. Chen looked around at her crew. They were all watching her, waiting for orders. These were good people, trained professionals who trusted her to make the right decisions. She hoped she was worthy of that trust. Martinez, what's our tactical situation? She asked. Not good, Captain. We're outnumbered 47-1. Their ships are larger and more heavily armed. Our weapons couldn't penetrate their shields, even if we concentrated all our firepower on a single target. Chen nodded. That was exactly what she had expected him to say. It was also exactly what the aliens expected to hear. The Kethvar had studied human technology through long-range observation and captured equipment. They thought they understood human capabilities. They were wrong. Dr. Vasquez, what can you tell me about their ships? Vasquez looked up from her console, her face grim. Captain, their technology is impressive, but not as advanced as they want us to think. The ships are using standard energy shields and plasma weapons, nothing revolutionary. What concerns me is their formation. They're positioned to prevent any escape, but they're also in perfect range for our... She paused, glancing around the bridge. For our what, Doctor? Chen asked. For our passive scanning array. Every ship in their fleet is being analyzed right now. Their computers think they're scanning us, but the data flow is going both ways. We're learning everything about their systems. Chen allowed herself a small smile. The Defiance was equipped with quantum infiltration protocols, a technology so advanced that most human scientists didn't fully understand it. The aliens would see standard sensor sweeps. They would never detect the subtle data mining that was mapping their entire fleet. How long do we need? Chen asked. Another 30 minutes for a complete analysis of their fleet structure. An hour if we want to crack their communication codes. Chen considered their options. An hour would give them everything they needed, but it would also put them dangerously close to the deadline. The aliens were not known for their patience. Begin Protocol 7, Chen ordered quietly. Every officer on the bridge stiffened. Protocol 7 was classified at the highest levels. It was a contingency plan that no one wanted to use, but everyone hoped would never be necessary. It was also their only chance of survival. Chief Engineer Marcus Torres received the order in the engine room. He had been waiting for this moment, hoping it would never come, but preparing for it anyway. Protocol 7 required precise timing and absolute secrecy. One mistake would doom them all. Torres moved through the engine room, making adjustments. That looked like routine maintenance. He powered down non-essential systems, rerouted energy flows, and began what appeared to be a standard surrender procedure. His team worked with practiced efficiency, following a plan they had rehearsed countless times. In reality, Torres was preparing the Defiance for something the aliens could never imagine. The ship was not what it appeared to be. The humans had learned hard lessons from their first encounters with alien technology. They had adapted, evolved, and prepared. On the bridge, Chen opened a channel to the alien flagship. Admiral Zexthul, we are complying with your demands. We are powering down our weapons and shields. We request permission to transmit our surrender to Earth Command. Denied, came the immediate response. Your homeworld will learn of your fate when we decide to inform them. Continue your shutdown procedures. Chen nodded to Park, who began, transmitting what appeared to be standard technical data to the alien fleet. The HFY intercepted the transmission and analyzed it carefully. They saw detailed schematics of human technology, power systems, and defensive capabilities. Everything confirmed their assessment that humans were a primitive species with outdated equipment. They never suspected that the schematics were completely fabricated. The real capabilities of the Defiance remained hidden, buried under layers of deception and misdirection. Dr. Vasquez continued her analysis of the alien fleet. What she discovered made her blood run cold. Hidden among the warships were vessels carrying biological weapons. The energy signatures were unmistakable. The HFY weren't just planning to conquer humanity, they were planning to sterilize Earth completely. She quietly passed the information to Captain Chen, who read the report with growing horror. This wasn't first contact. This was attempted genocide. The aliens planned to eliminate every form of life on Earth, from humans down to the smallest bacteria. Chen looked around the bridge at her crew. 200 souls against 47 alien warships. 200 humans standing between Earth and extinction. The odds were impossible, but that had never stopped humanity before. Continue surrender. Procedures, Chen ordered, and prepare for what comes next. Time was running out. In less than an hour, alien boarding parties would arrive. They would expect to find a defeated crew ready for subjugation. Instead, they would discover something that no alien species in the galaxy had ever encountered before. They would discover what happened when humans had nothing left to lose. The boarding shuttles approached the Defiance like predators circling wounded prey. Admiral Zexthol watched from his flagship as his elite teams prepared to take control of the human vessel. Everything was proceeding according to plan. The humans had submitted without firing a single shot, exactly as his intelligence reports had predicted. Admiral, his tactical officer reported, the human ship has powered down all weapons and lowered their shields. They're transmitting surrender, codes, and offering full cooperation. Zexthol's mandibles clicked with satisfaction. As expected, these humans lack the resolve for real combat. Deploy the boarding teams. I want that ship secured within the hour. The first shuttle docked with the Defiance's main airlock. The alien boarding party consisted of 12 warriors from 3 different species, each chosen for their specific abilities. The Telquesh could manipulate energy with their crystalline bodies. The Vorthak were cybernetic beings with tactical computers built into their brains. The Mindari were telepaths who could read thoughts and emotions. Captain Chen met them at the airlock personally, flanked by 2 security officers. She appeared calm, almost resigned to her fate. The lead Vorthak, designation Tactical Unit 7749, scanned her with its mechanical eye. Human Captain Chen. It spoke in perfectly synthesized English. You will provide access to all ship systems. You will order your crew to offer no resistance. Compliance will ensure minimal casualties. Of course, Chen replied smoothly. My crew understands the situation. We're prepared to cooperate fully with your requirements. She gestured down the corridor. Would you like a tour of the ship? I can show you our main systems. The aliens exchanged glances. This was unexpected. Most species required threats or demonstrations of force before they became this cooperative. The Mindari, a floating jellyfish-like creature with transparent skin, extended its mental probe toward Chen's mind. The moment its telepathy touched her thoughts, the Mindari recoiled in shock. Human consciousness was unlike anything it had ever encountered. Where other species had organized, predictable thought patterns, humans were a storm of controlled chaos. Their minds operated on multiple levels simultaneously, processing dozens of different scenarios and possibilities at once. Difficulty detected, the Mindari reported to its companions. Human thought patterns are unusual, cannot establish clear read. Chen noticed the alien's distress, but showed no reaction. She had been trained to resist telepathic intrusion, but it wasn't training that protected her. Human minds had evolved differently than any other known species. They were inherently resistant to mental manipulation. As they moved through the ship, the boarding party was surprised by what they found. The human crew went about their duties with calm efficiency. There was no panic, no desperation, no signs of a defeated enemy. The crew members they encountered were polite, helpful, and seemingly resigned to their fate. Dr. Vasquez was in the main laboratory, apparently cataloging their scientific equipment for the new alien administrators. She looked up as the boarding party entered, showing no fear despite being face-to-face with beings that could easily kill her. "Welcome aboard," she said pleasantly. "I've prepared a complete inventory of our research materials. I thought you might be interested in our findings about this region of space." The Telquesh warrior, its crystalline body pulsing with stored energy, approached her workstation. Its species was naturally curious about scientific endeavors. "Show us," it commanded. Vasquez began displaying her research on the main screen. Charts, graphs, and technical readouts filled the display. To the aliens, it looked like standard survey data about stellar formations and cosmic radiation. They had no way of knowing that hidden within the innocent-looking scientific data was a complete analysis of their fleet's capabilities. Every scan they had performed on the Defiance had been turned against them. The quantum infiltration protocols were working perfectly, gathering information at a rate that would have been impossible through direct observation. The humans now knew more about Kethvar technology than some of the aliens themselves. In the engine room, Chief Torres was providing a similar show for another boarding team. He walked them through the human power systems, explaining how their primitive fusion reactors worked. The aliens were clearly unimpressed. Human technology seemed crude and inefficient compared to their own antimatter drives. "Your energy output is minimal," observed a Vorthak technician. "How do you achieve faster-than-light travel with such limited power?" Torres scratched his head and grinned sheepishly. "Well, we have to be real careful about it. Our jump drives are pretty touchy. One wrong setting and the whole reactor could overload. That's why we have all these safety systems." He pointed to various control panels and backup systems throughout the engine room. The aliens nodded condescendingly. Clearly, humans were too primitive to build reliable technology. They needed multiple redundant systems because their engineering was so poor. What the aliens didn't understand was that humans built everything to survive catastrophic failure. Every system had backups. Every backup had alternatives, and every alternative had emergency protocols. This wasn't because human engineering was poor. It was because humans had learned to expect the impossible. The redundant systems Torres was showing them served another purpose entirely. Each backup system could be reconfigured for combat operations. Every safety protocol could be bypassed when necessary. The engine room wasn't just a power plant. It was a weapons factory waiting to be activated. On the bridge, Captain Chen was providing the boarding party with access to the ship's computer systems. She entered her command codes and opened various databases for their inspection. The aliens saw crew records, mission reports, and technical specifications. Everything appeared normal for a scientific expedition. "Your species keeps extensive records," noted the lead Vorthak. "This will make the transition to hegemony control more efficient." "We believe in thorough documentation," Chen agreed. "Would you like to see our communication logs? We've been in regular contact with Earth Command about our mission." The aliens eagerly accessed the communication records. They found months of routine reports about stellar mapping, radiation surveys, and equipment maintenance. There were personal messages from crew members to their families, requisition requests for scientific supplies, and complaints about the food synthesizers. Hidden among the mundane communications were other messages, coded transmissions that looked like routine technical updates but actually contained detailed intelligence about alien movements throughout this sector of space. The Defiance had been tracking HFY activities for weeks, building a complete picture of their capabilities and intentions. Dr. Vasquez made her most disturbing discovery while analyzing the data they had gathered from the alien fleet. The biological weapons she had detected were far worse than she had initially thought. They weren't just designed to kill humans, they were engineered to destroy Earth's entire ecosystem. The weapons would target specific protein structures found in Earth-based life forms. Every plant, animal, and microorganism that had evolved on humanity's homeworld would die within days. The planet would become a sterile rock, completely uninhabitable for millions of years. She passed this information to Captain Chen through a routine scientific report that the aliens would interpret as harmless survey data. Chen read the hidden message and felt her blood turn to ice. This wasn't conquest. It was complete annihilation. The HFY weren't planning to rule humanity. They were planning to erase every trace that humans had ever existed. Throughout the ship, the alien boarding parties continued their inspections. They found exactly what they expected to find: a primitive species with outdated technology and no stomach for real combat. The humans were cooperative, almost eager to please. Their ship was poorly armed and barely capable of defending itself. Every assessment confirmed what HFY intelligence had predicted. Humans were weak, easily intimidated, and posed no real threat to galactic stability. The hegemony's decision to eliminate them was probably unnecessary, but it would send a clear message to other emerging species. What the aliens failed to notice were the small details that would have warned a more perceptive observer. The human crew moved with military precision despite their civilian status. Their surrender procedures were too well rehearsed, too efficient for a truly defeated enemy. Most telling of all, there was no despair in their eyes. Instead, there was something that looked almost like anticipation. Admiral Zexthul received regular updates from his boarding teams. Everything was proceeding smoothly. The human ship was secured, the crew was cooperating, and the transfer of control would be complete within hours. Soon, the hegemony could move on to the next phase of their plan. The biological weapons would be deployed throughout human space. Earth and its colonies would be sterilized quickly and efficiently. The galaxy would be safer without the chaotic influence of humanity. Time was running out for both sides. The aliens thought they had achieved a bloodless victory. The humans knew they were about to fight for the survival of their entire species. Neither side fully understood what the other was capable of. In a few hours, that would change forever. The alien boarding parties had been on the Defiance for 3 hours when they began to notice something unsettling. The human crew was too calm. Not the calm of defeat, but the calm of people who knew exactly what they were doing. It was the kind of stillness that came before a storm. Tactical Unit 7749 stood in the ship's main corridor, processing data through its cybernetic brain. According to all tactical models, the humans should be showing signs of stress, fear, or desperation. Instead, they moved through their daily routines with an efficiency that bordered on the mechanical. Even more disturbing, they seemed to be anticipating orders before they were given. "Status report," the Vorthak transmitted to its companions. Throughout the ship, the responses came back immediately, all sections secured, all crew members accounted for, no resistance encountered. Everything was proceeding according to plan, yet something felt fundamentally wrong. In the medical bay, Dr. Sarah Kim was treating a crew member for what appeared to be a minor injury. The Mindari observer floated nearby, its translucent form, pulsing with bioluminescent patterns as it attempted to read the emotional atmosphere of the room. "Human thoughts continue to be difficult to interpret," it reported. "Their mental patterns suggest they are waiting for something." Dr. Kim looked up from her patient and smiled pleasantly. "Waiting? Oh, I suppose we're all waiting to see what happens next. This is quite an adventure for us. Most of my patients are usually suffering from nothing more exciting than space sickness, the Mindari's probe deepened, trying to penetrate the surface thoughts to reach the human's true emotions. What it found made no sense. Dr. Kim was genuinely curious about the aliens, professionally interested in their biology, and completely unafraid. There was no trace of the submission or terror that should accompany conquest. More disturbing was what lay beneath her conscious thoughts. The Mindari detected layers of preparation, contingency planning, and what could only be described as predatory patience. This human was not a victim. She was a hunter, waiting for the right moment to strike. In the engineering section, Chief Torres was showing the alien technicians through the ship's power distribution network. He explained each system with the enthusiasm of someone genuinely proud of his work, pointing out various improvements and modifications he had made over the years. Here's my favorite, he said, gesturing to a complex array of conduits and control panels. See, the original design called for 3 backup power systems, but I figured that wasn't enough, so I added 7 more. You can never have too many backups, right? The Vorthak technician scanning the system agreed. Your species appears to lack confidence in your technology. This level of redundancy suggests poor manufacturing standards. Torres nodded enthusiastically. Oh yeah, our stuff breaks down all the time. That's why I always build in extra safety margins. Like this power coupling here, it's rated for twice our maximum output, and these control circuits can handle 10 times normal load. Better safe than sorry, you know? What Torres didn't mention was that every safety system he was showing them was actually a weapons system in disguise. The extra power couplings could channel massive energy surges to unexpected locations. The oversized control circuits could manage the kind of power loads needed for combat operations. The redundant systems weren't backups. They were alternative, configurations that could turn the entire ship into a weapon. The alien technician made careful notes about human engineering principles. This information would be valuable when the hegemony began reverse engineering human technology. The primitives had some interesting ideas, even if their execution was flawed. On the bridge, Captain Chen was engaged in what appeared to be a friendly conversation with the senior boarding party leader. She was explaining human exploration protocols, sharing stories about previous missions, and asking polite questions about Kethvar culture. "Your ships are magnificent," she said admiringly. "I've never seen such elegant design. How long did it take your people to develop such advanced technology?" The Telquesh warrior's crystalline body brightened with pride. "The hegemony has perfected spacefaring technology over thousands of years. Your species shows promise, but you require guidance to reach your potential." Chen nodded thoughtfully. "I'm sure you're right. We have so much to learn. For instance, those biological research vessels in your fleet, they must represent incredibly advanced life sciences. What kind of experiments do you conduct?" The question was asked with such innocent curiosity that the alien answered without thinking. "Those vessels carry sterilization protocols for planetary cleaning operations. When a world requires renewal, they ensure complete biological reset." "Fascinating," Chen replied, making a mental note. The confirmation of what Dr. Vasquez had discovered sent a chill through her, but her expression never changed. "I'd love to learn more about your scientific methods." What the alien didn't realize was that their casual conversation was being recorded and analyzed by every sensor on the ship. Every word, every gesture, every involuntary response was being cataloged for future reference. The humans were conducting their own interrogation, and the aliens were volunteering information freely. Dr. Vasquez was in her laboratory, ostensibly preparing scientific reports for the new alien administrators. In reality, she was conducting the most important analysis of her career. The data they had gathered about the Kethvar fleet was revealing weaknesses that could be exploited. The alien ships were powerful, but predictable. Their technology was advanced, but inflexible. Most importantly, their tactics were based on overwhelming force rather than adaptive strategy. They had never faced an enemy that could match their technological advantages, so they had never learned to fight creatively. Human military doctrine was different. It was based on the assumption that the enemy would always be stronger, better, equipped, and more numerous. Humans had spent centuries learning to win against impossible odds. They had turned disadvantage into an art form. The biological weapons were the key to everything. If the hegemony had brought those vessels to this encounter, they weren't planning to conquer humanity. They were planning to exterminate it. That changed the rules of engagement completely. Vasquez completed her analysis and transmitted it to Captain Chen through what appeared to be a routine scientific update. The message was hidden in spectral analysis data that would look completely innocent to any alien observer. Chen received the information and felt the last piece of the puzzle fall into place. The Defiance was vastly outnumbered and outgunned. Any conventional battle would result in their complete destruction within minutes, but this wasn't going to be a conventional battle. The aliens had made a crucial mistake. They had boarded a human ship while completely underestimating what humans were capable of when their survival was at stake. Throughout the ship, subtle changes were taking place. Crew members moved through their duties with increasing precision. Systems that had been powered down were quietly coming back online. Equipment that had appeared damaged was suddenly functioning perfectly. The Defiance was waking up, and it was hungry. The aliens began to notice inconsistencies, power readings that didn't match their earlier scans, energy flows that seemed to serve no purpose. Most disturbing of all, the humans were displaying a level of coordination that should have been impossible without telepathic communication. On a HFY ship, orders were transmitted through a complex hierarchy of command structures. Each crew member had a specific role and followed predetermined protocols. The humans seemed to operate differently. They anticipated each other's needs, supported each other's actions, and adapted to changing situations without apparent communication. The Mindari observer reported this phenomenon to the boarding party leaders. The humans function as a collective entity, despite lacking telepathic abilities. Their coordination suggests hidden communication methods. Tactical Unit 7749 processed this information and found it disturbing. Hidden communication implied hidden capabilities. Hidden capabilities suggested that their intelligence about human technology was incomplete. Incomplete intelligence could lead to tactical miscalculations. For the first time since the boarding began, the Vorthak experienced something approaching: uncertainty. Its combat algorithms were detecting patterns that didn't match expected parameters. The humans were not behaving like a conquered species. Admiral Zexthul received the updated reports from his boarding teams with growing irritation. The operation was taking longer than expected. The humans were cooperative but somehow inefficient. Their technology was primitive but oddly complex. Their crew was defeated but strangely calm. "Status of the biological weapons deployment?" he demanded. "Standing by for your order, Admiral," came the immediate response. "All carriers are in position. Planetary sterilization can commence at your command." Zexthul considered his options. The original plan called for a complete intelligence-gathering phase before proceeding to extermination. The humans had already proven more interesting than expected. Perhaps there was more to learn from them. "Maintain current positions," he ordered. "Continue intelligence-gathering operations. I want a complete understanding of human capabilities before we proceed to the final phase." It was a decision he would regret for the rest of his very short life. On the Defiance, Captain Chen received a priority message from Earth Command. It had been transmitted through quantum entanglement communication, a technology the aliens didn't know existed. The message was brief and to the point. "Protocol 7 authorized. Full discretion granted. Make them remember." Chen smiled for the first time since the aliens had arrived. Earth knew what was happening. The home fleet was already mobilizing. But more importantly, she now had permission to show the galaxy what happened when someone threatened humanity's existence. She looked around the bridge at her crew, at the alien observers who thought they were in control, and at the view screen, showing the massive fleet that surrounded them. 200 humans against 47 alien warships. The odds were impossible. Humanity had always specialized in impossible odds. The moment everything changed began with a simple question. Dr. Vasquez was in the ship's laboratory, surrounded by 3 alien observers, when she casually asked, "Would you like to see something interesting about human engineering?" The Telquesh. Warrior leaned forward, its crystalline body pulsing with curiosity. "Proceed." Vasquez activated what appeared to be a standard diagnostic routine on her computer terminal. To the aliens, it looked like a simple system check. In reality, she was initiating the final phase of Protocol 7. Across the ship, hidden systems began to activate. Dormant programs awakened. The Defiance started to reveal its true nature. The first sign something was wrong came from the ship's power readings. The alien technicians monitoring the human reactor noticed an unusual energy spike, then another. Within seconds, the power output had tripled, then quintupled, then jumped to levels that should have been impossible for the primitive human technology they had observed. "Alert!" transmitted Tactical Unit 7749 to its boarding party companions. "Human vessel exhibiting unexpected energy generation. Investigating source." The Vorthak moved quickly through the corridors toward the engineering section, its mechanical brain calculating possible explanations for the anomaly. System malfunction was most likely. Perhaps the humans had damaged their own reactor during the surrender procedure. Such incompetence would be typical of their species. Chief Torres was waiting for the alien in the main engineering bay, standing beside what had previously appeared to be a simple fusion reactor. The Vorthak stopped in its tracks as its sensors registered the truth. This was not a fusion reactor. The energy signature was completely different from what they had observed before. "What is this?" the alien demanded. Torres grinned widely. "Oh, this old thing? It's what we call a zero-point energy matrix. We've been running it at about 15% capacity to avoid damaging your sensors. Figured you might not appreciate getting hit with that much radiation." The Vorthak's optical sensors recalibrated frantically as it tried to process what it was seeing. Zero-point energy was theoretical technology that even the most advanced hegemony species had never successfully developed. Humans were supposed to be primitives. They should not have possessed such capabilities. "Impossible," the alien stated. "Our scans detected fusion signatures." "Yeah, that's the beauty of the system," Torres explained cheerfully. "The zero-point matrix is surrounded by a fusion reactor shell. Perfect camouflage. You see what we want you to see. Pretty clever, right?" Throughout the ship, similar revelations were occurring. Equipment that had appeared damaged was suddenly functioning perfectly. Systems that had been powered down came online with energy outputs that dwarfed anything the aliens had expected. Most shocking of all, the ship itself was changing. Hull sections that had seemed like solid metal began to retract, revealing weapon arrays that had been completely hidden from external scans. The scientific equipment that Dr. Vasquez had been so eager to show off transformed into targeting systems and defensive shields. Even the ship's basic structure was different from what the aliens had believed. Captain Chen stood on the bridge, watching the confused expressions of her alien observers with calm satisfaction. "I'm afraid we haven't been entirely honest with you," she said pleasantly. The lead Vorthak turned its mechanical eye toward her, processing what appeared to be a malfunction in its threat assessment algorithms. "Explain." "Well," Chen began, "the UES Defiance isn't actually an exploration vessel. That's just what we told everyone, including your intelligence services. She's a prototype deep strike warship designed specifically for encounters like this one." On the main view screen, the external view of their ship was updating as the true configuration became visible. The Defiance was no longer a single vessel. It was separating into 3 distinct ships, each one bristling with weapons that rivaled anything in the alien fleet. "You see," Chen continued conversationally, "we've been expecting someone like you for quite some time. Our expansion into space has been a bit more rapid than we let on. We've encountered several of your scout ships over the past year. Nice people, your scouts. Very informative." The Vorthak's combat protocols were screaming warnings as it processed the implications. If humans had captured Kethvar scouts, they would have had access to detailed intelligence about hegemony capabilities, tactics, and technology. This entire encounter could have been planned in advance. Admiral Zexthul was receiving similar reports from boarding parties throughout the human vessel. His tactical display was updating in real time as the true nature of the enemy ship became apparent. 3 ships where there had been 1. Weapons where there had been none. Advanced technology where there should have been primitive systems. "All units, withdraw from the human vessel immediately," he commanded. "Prepare for combat operations." But it was already too late. The human ship had become human ships, and they were moving with impossible speed and coordination. The Defiance, Vengeance, and Retribution spread out in a defensive formation that would have been tactically perfect even if they had been planning it for months. Dr. Vasquez was no longer playing the role of cooperative scientist. She stood in her laboratory, surrounded by alien observers who were suddenly realizing they were prisoners rather than conquerors. Her voice was calm and professional as she began to explain exactly what was about to happen. The biological weapons. "In your fleet are designed to target Earth-based proteins," she said. "Very thorough work. They would have killed every living thing on our planet within a week. Unfortunately for you, we've been monitoring your weapons development for quite some time." The Telquesh warrior's crystalline body was pulsing rapidly with what humans might have recognized as anxiety. "How is this possible? Your species lacks the technology for such surveillance." Vasquez smiled. "That's what you were supposed to think. Dr. Chen, activate external view." The laboratory's main screen changed to show the space around the 3 human ships. The alien fleet was moving into attack formation, their massive vessels maneuvering with practiced precision. It should have been an impressive display of overwhelming force. Instead, it looked like a herd of sleeping giants being stalked by velociraptors. The human ships were moving in patterns that defied conventional space combat doctrine. They didn't maintain formation. They didn't follow predictable trajectories. They moved like living things, adapting and responding to each other with a coordination that should have required telepathic communication. "You wanted to study human capabilities," Vasquez continued. "Allow me to provide some educational material." On the bridge of the Defiance, Captain Chen was receiving tactical updates from her sister ships. Commander Torres on the Vengeance and Captain Park on the Retribution were reporting ready status. All systems were online. All crew members were at combat stations. The aliens had spent hours studying what they thought was a defeated enemy. They had never realized they were observing a predator preparing to hunt. "Captain," reported the sensor officer, "the alien fleet is moving to attack formation. All ships are powering weapons and shields." Chen nodded. "Signal the fleet. Execute Redemption Protocol." The Redemption Protocol was the human military's response to existential threats. It wasn't about winning battles or capturing territory. It was about making sure that anyone who threatened humanity's existence paid a price so terrible that no one would ever be tempted to try again. The first phase of the attack came without warning. The 3 human ships had been positioned to look defensive, clustered together as if seeking mutual protection. In reality, they were in perfect position to execute a coordinated strike against the alien fleet's most vulnerable elements. The biological weapons carriers were the primary targets. These ships were heavily protected but not designed for combat. They relied on the fleet's warships for defense. That protection had just become a liability. The Vengeance appeared directly behind the first biological weapons carrier, moving faster than anything that size should have been able to move. Its weapons fire was precise and devastating, targeted not at the ship's hull but at specific systems that would disable rather than destroy. The retribution materialized alongside a second weapons carrier, its attack perfectly timed to coincide with its sister ship. Within seconds, both vessels were crippled, their weapons systems offline and their crews struggling to understand what had just happened. Admiral Zexthul watched in horror as his carefully planned biological strike was eliminated before it could even begin. All ships, converge on the human vessels. Destroy them immediately. But the human ships were no longer where his sensors indicated they should be. They were moving through space like dancers performing a deadly ballet, each ship supporting the others while maintaining their own tactical objectives. The Defiance had positioned itself directly in front of Zexthul's flagship, its weapons trained on the bridge where the alien commander stood. Captain Chen's voice came through the communication system with terrible clarity. "Admiral Zexthul, this is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth Navy. You came here to destroy my species. You brought weapons designed to murder every living thing on our homeworld. You made a mistake." The alien fleet opened fire with everything they had. 45 warships unleashed enough firepower to sterilize a planet. The space around the 3 human vessels became a storm of energy beams and plasma charges. When the weapons fire cleared, all 3 human ships were still there, protected by shield systems that hadn't existed moments before. They were damaged, but functional, ready to continue the fight. More importantly, they were no longer alone. Space itself seemed to tear open as reinforcements arrived through quantum tunnels that the aliens had never suspected existed. 50 human warships materialized around the alien fleet, surrounding the Kethvar vessels just as completely as they had surrounded the Defiance. The hunters had become the hunted. The battle that followed would be studied by military strategists across the galaxy for generations to come. It was not a battle in any conventional sense. It was a demonstration of what happened when an apex predator species decided that someone needed to be taught a lesson. Admiral Zexthul found himself at the center of a tactical nightmare. His fleet of 47 ships was now surrounded by 53 human vessels, each one displaying technology that shouldn't have existed. The situation had reversed so completely that he could barely process what was happening. "Status report," he demanded. "Admiral, we're detecting quantum displacement signatures throughout the human fleet," his sensor officer reported, voice shaking with confusion. "Their ships are capable of short-range teleportation. Our tactical computers cannot predict their movements. And their weapons? Unknown technology. Energy output exceeds our theoretical maximums. Their shield systems appear to be based on spatial distortion rather than energy deflection." Zexthul stared at the tactical display as human ships moved through his formation like ghosts, striking at precise targets before vanishing to new positions. This was not how space combat was supposed to work. Ships were supposed to maintain formation, trade fire at long range, and rely on superior technology to achieve victory. The humans were doing none of those things. Captain Chen stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching her fleet execute the most complex combat operation in human history. Every ship in the formation was operating independently, while somehow maintaining perfect coordination with the whole. It was organized chaos, and it was beautiful. "Captain, the alien flagship is attempting to withdraw," reported her tactical officer. "Denied," Chen replied calmly. "Signal the Prometheus and the Achilles. Box them in." 2 human heavy cruisers appeared on either side of Zexthul's ship, their weapons powered but not yet firing. The message was clear. "You're not going anywhere until we're finished with you." Dr. Vasquez was still in her laboratory, providing commentary for her alien observers who were now clearly prisoners. The Telquesh warrior was watching the external view with what could only be described as shock. "Your species? This level of coordination should be impossible without telepathic communication," it said. "Oh, we don't need telepathy," Vasquez explained cheerfully. "We have something much more effective. We call it trust. Every human in this fleet knows that their shipmates will support them, protect them, and die for them if necessary. That kind of bond creates a unity that no telepathic link can match." The alien couldn't understand what she meant. Kethvar society was based on hierarchy and obedience. Orders came from above and were followed without question. The idea that beings could coordinate through mutual trust and shared purpose was incomprehensible. Throughout the human fleet, individual ship commanders were making split-second decisions that affected the entire battle. They didn't wait for orders from higher authority. They didn't check with Central Command before engaging targets. They simply acted according to their training, their instincts, and their trust in their fellow humans. Commander Torres, now in command of the Vengeance, was pursuing a group of Kethvar destroyers that were trying to escape the battle. He could have easily destroyed them, but that wasn't the point of this exercise. Instead, he disabled their engines and communication systems, leaving them adrift but alive. "Vengeance to defiance," he transmitted. "Package secured. Ready for delivery." Captain Park on the Retribution was executing a similar operation against the alien cruisers. Her ship danced through their formation, precisely targeting weapon systems and shield generators. Within minutes, 6 enemy vessels were helpless, floating in space with no offensive capability. The Kethvar fleet was being systematically dismantled. Not destroyed, but disabled. The humans were taking them apart piece by piece, demonstrating a level of tactical precision that should have been impossible to achieve in the chaos of combat. Admiral Zexthul finally understood what was happening. This wasn't a battle. It was a lesson. The humans were showing him exactly how outmatched his forces were. They could have destroyed his entire fleet in the first few minutes of combat. Instead, they were prolonging the engagement to make a point. "Open a communication channel to the human flagship," he ordered. Captain Chen's face appeared on his view screen, her expression calm and professional. Behind her, the bridge of the Defiance hummed with quiet efficiency. These weren't panicked defenders fighting for their lives. They were professionals doing their job. "Admiral," Chen said politely, "are you ready to discuss terms?" "What terms?" Zexthul demanded. "You are outnumbered and surrounded," Chen raised an eyebrow. "Admiral, with respect, I think you need to look at your tactical display again." Zexthul glanced at his screens and felt his heart sink. Of his original 47 ships, 36 were now disabled and helpless. The remaining 11 were barely maintaining defensive positions, their weapons and shields operating at minimal capacity. His mighty fleet had been reduced to scrap metal in less than 20 minutes. "Impossible," he whispered. "Not impossible," Chen corrected. "Just difficult. Would you like to know how we did it?" Before Zexthul could respond, Dr. Vasquez's voice came through the communication system. She was now transmitting from the laboratory where the alien observers could be seen. In the background, "Admiral, your intelligence about human capabilities was incomplete. We've been monitoring your species for over a year. Every scout ship you sent into our territory provided us with detailed information about your technology, your tactics, and your intentions." The truth was even worse than Zexthul had imagined. "You knew we were coming." "We knew someone was coming," Chen acknowledged. "The biological weapons were what convinced us to take action. You see, Admiral, there are certain lines that cannot be crossed. Threatening to exterminate an entire species is one of them." On the main view screen, the display changed to show detailed scans of the Kethvar biological weapons. Every ship that had carried the planet-killing devices was now disabled, their deadly cargo secured by human boarding parties. "These weapons would have killed every living thing on Earth," Vasquez continued. "Men, women, children, animals, plants, even bacteria. Total ecological destruction. We take that rather personally." Zexthul looked around his bridge at his own crew. These were professional soldiers who had served the hegemony faithfully for decades. They had conquered dozens of worlds and subjugated countless species. They had never encountered an enemy that could match their technological superiority. Now, they were facing beings who not only matched their technology, but exceeded it in ways they couldn't understand. Worse, these humans seemed to genuinely enjoy combat. They fought with an enthusiasm that was both admirable and terrifying. "What do you want?" Zexthul asked finally. "First," Chen replied, "you're going to send a message to the hegemony. You're going to tell them exactly what happened here. You're going to explain that humanity is not a primitive species to be conquered or guided. We are a peer civilization with the capability to defend ourselves. Second, you're going to return to Kethvar space and inform your leadership that Earth and all human colonies are now under the protection of the United Earth Navy. Any future aggression will be met with overwhelming force. And third," Dr. Vasquez added, "you're going to take these biological weapons with you, not to use them, but to remember what happens when someone threatens human civilians." The tactical display updated to show human ships attaching the disabled Kethvar biological weapons carriers to the alien vessels. The deadly devices would return to hegemony space as proof of what the humans were capable of. "Your fleet will be repaired enough to make the journey home," Chen continued. "Your weapons will remain disabled until you reach your own territory. We will be monitoring your progress." Zexthul wanted to object, to demand, to threaten. But his fleet was helpless, his weapons were gone, and he was completely at the mercy of beings he had thought were primitive savages. The humans had demonstrated their superiority so completely that resistance would be futile. "How?" he asked. "How did you develop such capabilities?" Chen's expression softened slightly. "Admiral, your species became civilized before you learned to truly fight. You developed technology before you understood warfare. Humanity is different. We spent 100,000 years learning to kill each other with rocks and sticks. We perfected the art of war before we ever left our planet. When we finally reached the stars, we brought that knowledge with us. We built our ships to survive. The impossible. We trained our crews to fight against overwhelming odds. We prepared for the day when someone would try to destroy us. That day was today. The human fleet began to withdraw, leaving the disabled Kethvar vessels alone in space. Repair ships appeared from hyperspace, apparently summoned by signals the aliens hadn't detected. Within hours, the enemy ships would be functional enough to return home, but they would never forget what they had learned about humanity. "Admiral," Zexthul composed his report to the hegemony leadership as human technicians worked to repair his ship's engines. The message was simple and direct. Humanity was not a species to be conquered. They were a species to be respected, feared, and, if possible, befriended. The galaxy was about to learn that humans were more than just another emerging civilization. They were apex predators who had learned to cooperate, innovate, and fight with a dedication that no other species could match. The Kethvar fleet limped home, carrying a message that would change galactic politics forever. Earth was protected by guardians who would stop at nothing to defend their people. Captain Chen stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching the alien ships disappear into hyperspace. The battle was over, but the real work was just beginning. Humanity had announced its presence to the galaxy in the most dramatic way possible. She opened a communication channel to Earth Command. "Mission accomplished. The galaxy knows we're here now. And they know what happens if anyone tries to hurt us." The response came back immediately. "Well done, Captain. Come home." Chen smiled as she gave the order to return to Earth. They had won more than a battle today. They had won the right to exist as equals among the stars. And if anyone forgot that lesson, the wreckage of the Kethvar fleet would remind them. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, and they were here to stay.